Welcome everybody to Three Wide in the Middle, your home for all things racing with me, Thomas Brandon, and finally, my man, Keith Bradley, back in the saddle with us. Keith, how's it going, man?
We're back.
That's right, we're back, finally. I was, last week, it was good to be back on the pod, but it wasn't the same without you, so glad to be back and finally get this thing rolling again. As you guys know, the end of 2022 and the beginning of 2023, to call them chaotic for me and Keith would probably be the understatement of the decade. So yeah, just a lot going on. So Keith, what's been going on, man? How's it been going?
Oh, good. I mean, got COVID. That sucked.
Yep. You
I
got it
think
twice, didn't you?
yeah.
Like in like a month or something?
Yeah, the second time was terrible. Like the after effects kicked my ass for an extra 2 weeks, it felt like.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, like outside of that, been busy, been working my tail off, making that money.
There you go. Got to do that. Yeah, I hear you on the working the tail off, man. It's been crazy. I've been talking about it, the glass business, and it's just been. I worked last night until on the computer. I was working until 11 o'clock last night. Went to bed. Of course, before I got up and went to bed, I was nodding off here in my cockpit, my rig, and then when I get to bed, I can't sleep. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I finally fell asleep around midnight. Wake up at 4 something in the morning, get back to work, and I've got another 15-hour day ahead of me, and it's just like, oh my god, I need to sleep.
At one point in time, there will be a light at the end of the tunnel.
There will be. There will be. Yeah.
It's a matter of getting to the end.
Exactly. Yeah. My wife asked me like a week ago. We were laying in bed and she was like, so how long are you going to have to work both of these businesses like this? I'm like, well, a while for the foreseeable future, babe. I go, at least the rest of 2023. She's like, oh my god, are you going to be able to do that, or is it going to kill you? And I'm like, well, hopefully it don't kill me. Hopefully we make it through. Yeah, we're gonna push it to the max, and we'll see, but I should be fine, hopefully. So I mean, eventually the glass business will die down some, just because wintertime, obviously there's a lot, since we do the bulk of our business with body shops, there's more wrecks in the wintertime than spring and summer, so it'll slow down some. It won't be as bad as it is right now. So yeah, we should hopefully maybe we'll be able to dial it down to just maybe like 14-hour days instead of 18-hour days, which would probably feel like a vacation for me at this point.
First, you could be over here where I'm at, about 200 miles or so to the northeast of me. There was a big train derailment in New Palestine, Ohio, and now all the toxins from the train cars is threatening our drinking water. So,
oh no, really? I did not hear about that.
23 off to a big bang.
Damn, that sucks, dude.
Yeah, so like where my work's at over in Kentucky, they've already sent warnings out like, hey, we're gonna have to shut off the river inlets to where they get the drinking water, and it goes through all the cleaning processes.
Wow, that's a bummer.
On our water tanks. So
that sucks, man. Well, and the crazy thing about stuff like that, and I don't know how it is back there, but when you get contaminants into rivers and stuff like that, that doesn't just mess up like city water. No, it doesn't. And that stuff, those creek beds and stuff like that, a lot of times that same water is what's dropping down through the rock strata or whatever. That's the same water that gets down into the underground water, is where you have your wells and stuff like that, where people have their own well where they pump out water and stuff. So it doesn't just affect like one thing, it can affect the entire water system for an entire town, right? Like it can be a really big deal. Our water, now this wasn't toxins, but out here where I'm at, we're outside city limits, and we've got well water. That month where we were getting, it was like 3 weeks or whatever, a month, where we basically just got like destroyed by that bomb cyclone or whatever the hell it was. We got so much rain, our ground was so saturated that the water coming up through our wells was brown. That's how saturated the ground was, is we were actually, there was dirt that was getting into the underground well. And even though it was going through a filtration process and stuff like that, the water was still coming out with a brown tint to it. So we couldn't even use our own tap water and stuff like that for like a week and a half. We were having to make anything that took water, coffee, anything like that, we had to put bottled water into it.
Well, and that's what we do.
Yep.
We've always done bottled water.
Yep.
My wife's not a big fan of tap water, neither am
Yeah.
I.
Yeah,
It
it's
just doesn't
it's
have a
pretty
taste
scary.
to it. Yeah.
Yeah, most
But
places don't. Yeah.
but what's scarier about this train derailment that's up in northern Ohio is it's already killed a bunch of wildlife, like a bunch, and
Yeah.
they've evacuated a 1 mile radius. They had to do a controlled explosion on it. It's been freaking crazy.
Yeah, that's nuts, dude. That sucks, man. Yeah, and when you start having wildlife like that die, that's that's tough. I mean, not only is it suck for the wildlife, but that's one of those things where, once again, what's all contaminated, right?
Yeah,
You know, you
and what exactly are the chemicals? What are the
yeah.
effects of the chemicals? So what's leaking right now is vinyl chloride, dilene glycol, and accelerant, whatever the hell that is.
Well, an
So
accelerant is usually some form of combustible liquid
yeah,
that is used for, whether it's
nothing good.
propulsion or yeah, it's nothing. It's the stuff they pour in like rocket engines or whatever. But yeah, so I mean, accelerants can be used for a bunch of different things, but usually it's some form of, at least the stuff that I know about it. And I am obviously not a chemical engineer. I am very
Nope.
limited in my knowledge of this, but the ones that I've always heard about usually have some form of combustional process to it, right? Where it's some kind of explosion or, fire, that type of thing. So yeah, that's a bummer, man. Now the other ones, I don't
I'm
even know what those are, but most
I'm
chemicals, I don't know what they are. So
I'm hoping we can complete the circle and ET fly by one night
yeah,
in one of his balloons. I mean, that put the icing on the cake for me.
exactly. Yeah, man, exactly. I know we got freaking balloons flying over everywhere. It's been nuts, dude. It's been so crazy. I try to just not even pay attention to that stuff. I get so um I'm just so over all of it, right? When it comes to stuff like that, it just I don't even try to watch it. It's just like, it's like putting it just makes me feel like crap, right? It's like if you eat like nothing but McDonald's for an entire day, right? If you have McDonald's for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, by the time you get home, you're gonna feel like garbage, right? Because you've put nothing but garbage into your body the whole day. That's how I feel when I watch the news and I see all that crap on, you know, China spy balloons and, train derailments killing the ecosystem, stuff like that. It's like I put this garbage into my brain. By the time I get home the end of the day, I'm like freaking out. I'm like, oh my God, the world's ending. This sucks.
Start getting
Yeah.
paranoid, like,
Yeah.
what is my next move?
Do I need to start moving to the mountains and prepping? Like, what's going on? It's just because that's all that they push, man. It's just like fear mongering and the end of the world. And it's depressing. So yeah. But anyways, good to have you back, man. Good to be back. And we got a bunch of, yeah.
Missed it.
Yeah, me too, man. Got a bunch of stuff to cover, as we had NASCAR qualifying last night. We got the dual races tonight. Obviously the 500s this weekend. We had Dirt Car Nationals last weekend. We got the World Outlaw late model doing their run at Volusia. That kicks off, I believe that's tonight. And so bunch of stuff to get to. But before we do that, in today's open, I want to cover something that has been out, and it, to me, more exemplifies what it more exemplifies really the issues that we've seen between Formula One, the Formula One drivers, and the FIA. Now, for those of you guys who don't know, the FIA is it's the Federation of Automobile International. I don't know how they say it in their language. It's like the Federation Automobilista Internacional or something like that. But it's the FIA and F1 are completely different. Okay. They're not the same thing. So you have to think of it in terms of like, you've got this governing body, this federation that essentially operates, right? They're kind of the operators of the Formula One schedule. And that's a very simplistic and easy way. I know there's far more to it, but that's kind of the easiest way to look at it. All right. So F1, when you had, this last year where you had Sebastian Vettel, right, speaking out against the rules that they had on what had to be worn under their driver's suits. If you remember, the FIA came out about the whole rule with the jewelry, right, where Lewis Hamilton was like, "Look, man, this nose ring it's permanently in there. This is not something I can just pull in and out. It's in there. I cannot take it out. If I take it out, I'm going to have just a hole in my nose." And you know what I mean? Like it's not something that there's a back on. It's like fused in there. So there's been this real big kind of head to head, not seeing eye to eye with the FIA for quite a while. And they had this obviously rule that they came out with where essentially they have this rule preventing drivers from making political statements. Now, obviously, when you look at the drivers that really kind of were the ones who did speak up against stuff like this, the two big ones were Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel, right? Those were kind of the two, I guess you would say, kind of the tip of the spear. Now, obviously, Lewis Hamilton is number one, and that's because he's black. And first and foremost, Lewis Hamilton is, for whatever you may think about him, when it comes to his political statements and stuff like that, he's not somebody who makes these statements or says stuff or tries to, do a showing, whether he's wearing a shirt or whatever. He's not somebody that does it lightly, right? So he's not like those clowns you see on the media where they just take the headline and then they blow it out of proportion before they actually know what happens, right? He's actually pretty smart about the way he goes about this, okay? And whether you agree or disagree with his beliefs on it, right? His thoughts and feelings on it, you don't have to agree with it to understand where he's coming from. And for me, we talked about this before. I said this last year when he was talking about retirement. I said that I thought it was upsetting because what he has done in the world of racing is incredible, right? To be black and to have the success that he's had, to be at GOAT status, right? With Schumacher, you can make the case that it's one or the other. To do that as a black man is incredible. It's absolutely incredible. I mean, Keith, you've raced for years. How many black race car drivers did you ever race against? I mean, I can count it on one hand, right?
None.
Exactly, man. You know what I mean? I think there was 2 or 3 of them the entire time I raced. I think there was maybe 2 or 3 of them that we raced against. There's not a lot. And to do it in a sport like F1, which, keep in mind, is not only racing, but it's like the elitist version of racing, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like it's the snooty, stuck up, the top 1% of 1%ers, right? Like it's the rich man's racing. To do that as a black man and have the success that he has and to deal with everything that he's dealt with and overcome it and to be that successful is incredible. And for me, if he wants to speak out against injustices and stuff like that, that's his right to do so. And for the FIA to come out and say that they're going to penalize it, this is where the argument as a business comes in, right? And this is the issue that people have a hard time with. Okay, because you have to understand that free speech does not mean unpunished speech in terms of especially a business, which is property rights, right? That falls under the property rights. Now, I don't understand or know all of Europe's laws when it comes to free speech. There's a lot of stuff that they call free speech that we in America would not look at as free speech, but they're business laws, right? At the end of the day, if that is what they own and that is their property, if they want to penalize someone for that, that is their right to do so. Okay. I have the right as an American, right, to speak out however I want. I have the right to free speech. But when I was working at Amazon, for example, I had the right to free speech. That did not give me the right to have free speech and keep my job. If I said something that Amazon did not like, they could fire me. That is their right to do so because that job is theirs. It's their property. I'm not entitled to it. So if the FIA wants to penalize drivers, that is their right to do so. The part that I find extremely fascinating is that these drivers are not only saying, look, this ain't going to stop us from saying anything, they're already expecting the FIA to start rolling this back. There's drivers who've been like, yeah, I don't think this is going to last very long. And it really is coming to what I talked about a while ago, where we've seen this massive rift between the FIA and F1. And I do believe we're going to see that come to a big head this season, especially if some of these rules do stay in place, because the F1's kind of getting to the point, especially with the drivers and stuff like that, and the teams, where they're looking at this being like, what do we have you for? Why do we have you, FIA? What do? You're a headache. You don't really help anything. You cause more problems than you solve, right? That's whether that's right, wrong, or indifferent, doesn't matter. That's the perception of the F1 side of things. And the FIA is not stupid. They need F1, right? That's their moneymaker. They need F1. Yes, they have other stuff. F1's the moneymaker, right? That's the big one. That's the banner carrier. That's, what they've got everything, built off of. So if this does continue, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with it, because I can promise you, whether you, like I said, agree with it or not, at the end of the day, Lewis Hamilton carries a really big stick in terms of popularity and influence in the world of F1. And with Vettel now retired, I do believe that Hamilton is going to be the one who's going to pick up kind of that mantle and continue to carry it forward. And I do believe the drivers are going to be following his lead on a lot of issues because, like I said, they followed Seb. Seb's gone. Hamilton really is, when we look at, the other drivers out there, he really does have the most when it comes to influence, respect, and, just people looking up to him in the garage. So it's going to definitely be something to keep an eye out, because Hamilton's already saying they're not going to stop me. This isn't going to keep me quiet. And we'll have to wait and see what happens with it, because with drivers already expecting this to be rolled out, they're already calling the FIA's bluff on this. And we'll have to see if the FIA capitulates, because if they don't, the first big issue that we have, which we will have, right? We always do. It's going to be interesting to see what happens when things are said and penalties are doled out. All right. So up next, we've got a segment that has been way too long since we've done hit or miss. All right, Keith, you ready?
Oh, my favorite segment.
I know, mine too. Well, we got some good ones today. So last night in qualifying, Hendrick Motorsports took the top 3 spots in qualifying at Daytona, and this shows that they are the team to beat in the 500. Hit or miss the mark, Keith?
I'm going to say it's going to miss the mark. The reason being, so at the beginning of last season, teams or manufacturers were able to submit new bodies for the next gen car. Well, they submitted them. Then after they tested with them, they're like, it gets too hot in here. So NASCAR adjusted them, didn't allow them to adjust the bodies. Well, now they allowed the teams or the manufacturers to adjust the bodies, make changes that they wanted to make, resubmit it, and Ford came out smelling like a rose, more so than the Chevys and the Toyotas. The Fords have more drag. Super speedways, the more drag you got, the faster you're going to go. And I think a Ford team's going to win the Daytona 500.
Yeah, it's a tough one, man.
They showed a lot of speed last night.
I know. But the thing, and this is what makes it so hard, is individual speed in qualifying is not the same as speed in the pack.
No.
Right.
No.
And we know that, that
we'll
was
find
one
out
thing.
Tonight, though.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We'll find out tonight. And that was always the issue, or I shouldn't say the issue, but that was always the thing, back in the day when you had DEI or even Dale Earnhardt, right, with RCR, when those teams would dominate these restrictor plate races. And even later on when you had Tony Stewart, right, when he was always working with Dale Earnhardt Jr. was at the end of the day, yes, those cars were fast by themselves, but when they got together, they were really fast, right? Jeff Burton had one of the greatest quotes of all time when they asked him how his car was doing, and he said, "Well, we're slow unless we're behind the 8 or the 15," right? Like it's like, well, apparently, who you're partnered with can make a big difference. And so it'll be interesting to see with this situation with the bodies like you're talking about, because if the Fords do have, right, this improved drag, right, where they are faster, they've got this decrease in drag, maybe increase in downforce, we'll have to see, does this improve their speed, especially when they're working together, because that's a big factor, right? Is
Very
how
big
how
factor.
do they work together? So, obviously these cars are, I mean, they're all aerodynamic, right? But at the end of the day, especially with what they have now, where they're trying to actually have brand identity, we're back to what we used to have, in the 90s, where, hey man, these cars have a different nose on them. They're not all the same with just stickers, right? They actually have a different nose on them. They actually have, the car is actually shaped a little bit different. It's as close as it can get, right? But it's still got that, that Ford nose is not identical to the Chevy nose. Okay, it's just not. So it'll be interesting to see what these guys look like when they're in the draft working with one another, because yeah, I do think if if they got the improvements that we've heard, it's going to be interesting to see. And I'm hoping that they are improved. I'm pulling. We'll talk about who our picks are later, but yeah, I'm hoping we're going to see some Fords up front. So, anyways, yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens. But next one on the list here. So, after taking the Cup Series by storm in 2022, Ross Chastain is going to be a top contender for the championship in 2023. Hit or miss the mark?
I think it's gonna miss the mark. I think he falls back down to earth this year. I think the reality slaps him in the face, and I think he's gonna get beat up by the Kevin Harvick don't give a fuck tour this year.
I am, Harvick saying, debts will be paid. That was, I'm definitely looking forward to
And
that.
and when he says it, he truly means it.
Yeah,
He's
he
one of the
does.
guys that'll come back out and he ain't
He
gonna be
is.
like a Denny Hamlin and just barely move you. Nah, he's gonna make sure he gets his voice heard.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna say it hits the mark. I do think he's gonna be a contender for a championship. I don't know if he's gonna make the final four again. Last season was so incredible. The season that he had, honestly, to me, I would have to say, even though Logano won the championship 2022, I said this, you know, I think it was last week, right? Where 2022 is going to be known as the year of Ross Chastain. Even though Logano won the championship, you will remember 2022 more for what Ross Chastain did than
And
what he
Martinsville.
didn't do. Yeah,
That fast at Martinsville
it,
foreshadowed the championship.
it really did. You know what I mean? Like that will, especially now since they've got the rule against it. I talked about that last week where they basically outlawed the Hail Melon, right?
No
Um,
fun league.
yeah, exactly. But it'll be forever known as the year of Ross Chastain. It really will. Like that's what I remember from it more than anything.
Now,
I do think he's going to be a contender. I don't know if he'll make the final four, but I do think he'll be in the top 10 and he'll be competing for wins this season.
I still think Ross will win some races, but I don't think he'll be talked about as much. If that makes any sense. I
No,
think
that does.
reality's gonna set in and Ross will go back to Ross and he'll show some flashes here and there. I think he'll make the playoffs, but I can't predict the final four. I don't know. I think it'll
Yeah,
be tough for this year.
it will be. It will be. So, all right, moving on to Ross Chastain's Trackhouse teammate. After agreeing to a multi-year extension with Trackhouse Racing and finally now having some stability in his Cup career, Daniel Suarez will finish in the top 10 in the point standings this year. Hit or miss the mark?
Oh, I think it's gonna hit the mark. I think this is what Daniel needs. He needs the foundation underneath him, knowing that he's not racing year by year
Yes.
like he has been. Now he can go out and focus on what needs to be done.
Yep.
And I think this year he might do a little bit of what Ross did last year. I think the 99 will break out this year.
I think so as well. I'm with you. I think this is kind of the stability that he's needed. He hasn't really had it before. He had what, 2 seasons at Gibbs? He had 1 year that was,
Just thrust it into the
yeah,
Cup Series
yeah,
on
he had
top
that
of
one weird ass year at
yeah.
whatchamacallit, Stewart Haas, right? Like, I mean, it was just like what, it was kind of like
It was
this throw him in at the last minute, and it was just weird.
what it
And
reminds me of, and not to cut you off,
no,
is
you're good.
these NFL teams going and getting these old quarterbacks, just bridging them.
Yes.
That's all Daniel has had. He's been a bridge driver,
Yes.
and now he's got a home. He has a
Yes.
true home. So
Yes, he's been with Trackhouse now. This, with 3 seasons, right? He just signed through. I think it's a 3-year extension. I mean, this is the first time, like you said, where he's not going to be essentially on like a 1-year deal, looking over his shoulder, and that's huge. I don't think people realize the difference that makes with your psyche, right? Make no mistake about it, people. Even at the highest level, it does not matter who it is, right? You could, I mean, whether you're talking about, NFL players, right? Legit NFL players, okay? Pro Bowl level players, Major League Baseball, NBA players, NASCAR drivers, it does not matter. Even when you are the best of the best, being on a 1-year deal, right? On a 1-year contract is hard because it brings in doubt, where it's, look, do they believe in me? If they believed in me, they would give me an extension, right? Like, those thoughts start to come into your head. And it only takes a little tiny bit to cause a big problem with your confidence and stuff like that. It can really mess with you.
well, it's like how many prove it deals do I need to do?
Exactly, right? Exactly. So I was happy to hear that he got the extension. I've always thought Daniel Suarez was somebody who had potential. Obviously, we know what he can do with the road racing side of it, with NASCAR having more of these road races and street circuits and stuff like that. He does have, it's not like it used to be back in the day where
Well,
it was
and
Sonoma and Watkins Glen. He's got multiple chances just at the road racing stuff to get wins.
and I think people just forget how rushed he was into Cup. He
Yes.
raced 2 years in Xfinity,
Was an
and
Xfinity champion too, by the way. It's
yeah,
not like
yeah,
he was a
what
scrub.
exactly. He goes and wins the Xfinity Championship, and Carl Edwards up and retires out of nowhere,
Mm-hmm.
and he is thrusted into that Gibbs ride. That's a lot of pressure
Yes.
on somebody that had no Cup experience coming into it.
Yep.
So
So
I'm happy for him.
I am too. I was happy to see it, and I'm looking forward to it because I do think he's going to have a good year. All right, next one. After guaranteeing their entry into the Daytona 500, Travis Pastrana and Jimmy Johnson will both finish in the top 15 this Sunday. Hit or miss?
Ooh, uh-huh. I'm gonna say it misses the mark only because it's a big unknown.
Exactly.
It's so hard to tell who's gonna finish and
Mm-hmm.
who's not. Jimmy Johnson historically hasn't had good luck at Daytona. I mean, if you go back and look at his past 5 or 6 Daytona 500s, he's wrecked in the duels. He's got wrecked out in the 500 early. Travis Pastrana's new to this new car,
Mm-hmm.
also. So I'm going to say it misses the mark for now. I hope they prove me wrong. I'm in limbo. I don't.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it misses the mark too. There's too much uncertainty when it comes to this type of racing. We know that. Anytime you're drafting, anytime you have these pack races, there's just too much in the air. All you need is one cut tire, right? And all of a sudden you've got a 15-car pileup, and anybody can be in it. So I'm with you.
Yeah.
There's no
And
guarantee it. I will say this though: if there are 2 drivers that could do it, it's Jimmy Johnson, Travis Pastrana. First of all,
oh,
Jimmy
100%.
Johnson, right? I mean, you're talking about a 7-time champion. I don't care what the car is; the man can drive it. Okay. Pastrana, did you see Pastrana get the win at
in a
Volusia,
UMP
and
modified
it was like
in
his
his first start.
yeah, I mean, he got out of the car after the heat race and was like, "I have no idea what I'm doing," and then went out there and won the feature. You know what I
Got him a
mean?
gator.
Yeah. So
Watch
that
out,
guy
NASCAR.
is yeah, that guy, there's nothing that I would put past him because
Now,
he's one of those types of people that seems like he can figure anything out.
oh, anything with wheels on it,
Yeah.
or even a snowmobile at that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Exactly. Doesn't even have to have
anything
wheels.
that can go fast. A pair of shoes, it don't
Yeah.
matter.
Yep.
He will make it go fast.
Yep.
And I wanna say this to everybody that's listening. Don't be all down in the dumps when Travis doesn't do anything in the duel tonight. I don't think he's gonna just go out there and race. I think he's gonna lay back. They don't have a
Yes.
backup car. I think he's gonna feel it out, get a sense of the draft, and save the car for Sunday. I don't
I'm
even
with
see the
you.
team practicing.
Yeah, there's really no benefit to them doing that. They've made the race. They need to now
Yeah,
start the race, right?
and the same
Their
with Jimmy
goal is
Johnson. I'd
yep.
save the car.
Yep, exactly, right? Even if you look at the guys who are you look at, Bowman and Larson, right? As long as they don't go to a backup car, they're starting on the front row, so why
Yeah.
go out there obviously, they're race car drivers, they wanna
Well,
race and stuff like that, but why put yourself in an unnecessarily dangerous situation?
and here's my other thing with the duels. I mean, you had guys complaining after the LA Coliseum of the hit still hurt.
Yeah,
Why risk it in a dual race? It
yep,
means nothing
exactly.
because
Yeah.
we don't know what these cars are gonna do yet.
Yep, we don't. We're not gonna know until there's a wreck, and unfortunately, Daytona is gonna be the testing ground because
Yeah.
I don't see us getting through it without a wreck. It
So
would be a miracle if we did.
tonight, I don't want to get on Facebook or Twitter and see people bitching that Travis Pastrana should not be here because what he do in the dual race? The dual
Yep.
race don't mean shit.
No, it doesn't.
Save the
Not
car
at
for
all.
Sunday.
Yep. So, all right, next one. We got a couple of rookies this season. I mean, obviously, you know, the two headlining rookies, Noah Gragson and Ty Gibbs. So, after winning last year's Xfinity Championship, Ty Gibbs will back it up by winning Rookie of the Year over Noah Gragson in 2023. Hit or miss the mark?
Ooh, yeah, to start it off with a tough one.
Hmm.
Hmm. And I'm gonna say it misses the mark.
Really?
I
You think
think
Gregson's going to get
I
Rookie of the Year,
think
huh?
Noah Gragson will get Rookie of the Year. I think Noah Gragson will also get a win.
I I'm going to tell you right now. I think it hits the mark, but there's nothing that would make me happier than to see Noah Gragson win this year.
I
That's
think
on my list of hopefuls because I really do. I really like that guy, man. I
I yeah.
really do.
I'm glad to see him get his opportunity in Cup.
Me too.
And I think where he has the edge over Ty is Noah's raced these cars
He
more times
has.
last year
He
than Ty
has.
did, and I think Ty is going to feel the pressure of a full season in Cup.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right about that. Noah does definitely have the advantage
Now,
over Ty on that. I do give the car and team advantage to Ty though. I
oh,
do think he's
100%,
got a much better opportunity than
100%.
Gregson does, and I think that might be the separator.
But I think with that last name and the pressure of the shoes he filled, because
Oh,
I
it's a
mean,
ton of pressure.
yeah,
It's a ton of pressure.
I think it's just gonna. I think reality is gonna hit Ty Gibbs harder than reality is gonna hit Ross Chastain. I
Oh,
think Ty Gibbs
that's
gets
a lot.
humbled this year.
Yeah. Oh, we'll see. Gonna be interesting to see
It's a wild
how it
pick,
plays
but I
out. Yeah. Mhm.
wouldn't be surprised.
All right, moving on to the dirt side. After a dominant performance at Volusia this last weekend, David Gravel has shown that he is the greatest threat to Brad Sweet for the Outlaw Championship in 2023. Hit or miss the mark?
Ooh, I'm gonna say it hits the mark for now. Let's circle back to this about August because I mean we talked about it last year. David Gravel needs to be more consistent throughout the season
Mm-hmm.
to where if something happens in Charlotte, it don't come back to bite him in the ass like it did last season. I think David Gravel gets it done this year though. I really do. Um, they just got to keep the consistency going. I mean, they got their foot on Brad Sweet's throat right now because Brad Sweet struggled in Volusia, and now they just need to take that momentum and carry it through the whole season, not through half, take a little break, and then pick it back up.
Yeah. I'm with you, man. I do think gravel is the greatest threat to Sweet. Um, but I said last weekend, and I'm sticking with it. Brad Sweet has now
Can't count 'em
become
out.
Brad Sweet has now become like Tom Brady for me. You know what I mean? Or Tim Duncan, or even a Donnie Schatz or Steve Kinzer. Until someone else wins it, I'm not betting against the
Yeah.
dude.
No,
You know what I
no.
mean? Like
And
I
I
can't.
and I hate to say that because I'm a Brad Sweet guy. I've raced with Brad Sweet, I'm not gonna say I'm best friends with him, but I knew him. We knew each other. I just man, it's so early now, you can't count him out. I think it's
No,
gonna come down
obviously
to
not.
Brad
Yeah,
Sweet and David Gravel for sure.
I do
And
too.
hopefully my dude Sheldon can put together a whole complete season and be there also.
Yes, that's the thing. If Hodenshield, Macedo was obviously really good last season as well, and even Schuhart, Logan Schuhart. If those guys could actually put the whole season together, we would have an incredible,
Yeah.
championship run. Um, it's just, yeah, we'll have to.
I would love to see Logan Schuhart win the championship this year just because of the family.
Yeah, that would be cool. That would be cool to see. It would be. So, all right, so that is going to do it for our hit and miss segment of the show. Now, when we come back, we are going to be doing our ridiculously too early playoff picks for the NASCAR Cup Series and our NASCAR Pick'em, which is going to be starting this week. Me and Keith got a new thing that we're going to be doing each week leading up to the race, and we'll be explaining that right after this break. All right, so first up, me and Keith are going to be doing our ridiculously too early playoff predictions. We're going to be picking our 16 drivers as to who we think will make the playoffs. Now, what we'll do is we'll make our playoff picks. When the playoffs come, we will see who got the most. And then we will do when the playoffs get here, we will do our final four predictions and who we think will win the championship. And then we'll see who gets the most out of that. Now, we need to actually come up with something here, Keith. We got to figure out an award for us when we win these little things. I was trying to think of this, and the problem is, being that we're, I don't know, 2,000 miles apart, it kind of makes
You
it difficult. Yeah. So what I was thinking was this, because we both are obviously avid sim racers. So I was thinking we could do something for like some credits or something like that, right? Make it to where it's just like,
yeah,
$20 in
yeah,
credits or something like that.
okay,
That
okay.
way there's something that we're playing for
At
besides
least we got something hanging over our head to
yeah, so
reach
it's not
after.
just all right, congrats, you won our podcast competition. So we'll do, I don't know, $20 in credits or something like that for the NASCAR playoff
And for
picks.
proof, we'll post the receipt on the Facebook
There you
page.
go. Yep,
That way
we'll put it
everybody
up
knows that we actually did it
that we actually
and
did it.
held
Yep.
true to it.
Yep. Now, that's our playoff picks. We're also going to be doing a NASCAR Pick'em. So each week, Keith and I will pick a driver as to who we think will win the race or do better than the opponent's driver. Whoever, if I pick, for example, I pick Chase Elliott this week, Keith picks Kevin Harvick this week at Daytona. Whichever driver finishes ahead of the other, they will get 10 points. The other person will get 5 points. And then at the end of the regular season, we'll see who has the most points for that. Once you pick a driver, though, in the regular season, you cannot pick them the rest of the season. Okay, now we'll reset it when we get to the playoffs. But if I pick Chase Elliott this week at Daytona, I cannot pick Chase Elliott again the rest of the regular season. Okay, so that's the way that the pick'em will work. All right, so we're going to do the playoffs first. Keith, let's go. We don't need them. It doesn't matter the order of them. This isn't where we're saying they're going to finish. But let's do it in blocks. Since we got 16 drivers, let's do it in blocks of 4. So who's your first 4 drivers you got making the playoffs?
All right, my first 4 is Kyle Larson, of course. I mean,
Good one.
Kevin Harvick, Ryan Blaney,
Didn't see that one coming.
and Kyle Busch.
I really like that four so far. I have to agree 100% on it. I mean, obviously, it's almost impossible to pick against Larson. Um, he's not quite Brad Sweet level because he hasn't won, four straight championships, but he is that level in the sense of like I cannot pick against the dude until he gives me a good reason to pick against him. Uh, he's just incredible. So yeah, all right. I've got Larson as well. I'm actually also gonna go with AJ Allmendinger just because I do think he will get a win on a road course. I do believe he is the best road course driver in the Cup Series. I do think he'll pop off a win on a road course, so I'm going to go with him. I'm also going to go with Blaney as well. I think Ryan Blaney is going to have a breakout year. That's one of my, I guess you would call it, bold predictions. He was winless last year. He won the All-Star race, but overall he didn't win a points race. He was there so many times. He should have had a couple of wins where they just did not close the deal. I think he's going to have a breakout year. It's funny. People are starting to talk about him like he is almost like a bust, like he's this wasted talent, right? Like he hasn't lived up to his potential. I, I don't know, man. I think he's done pretty good. Yeah, he could have obviously he could be better, but I think he's done pretty good. And I think this year we're going to see him break out. And then my fourth driver so far is also Christopher Bell. All right, who's your next four?
All right, so I got Denny Hamlin, Chase Briscoe, Chase Elliott.
I bet that one hurts.
It does.
I know you're not the biggest Chase Elliott fan.
I was sad putting him on my list, but he's too good to not put on the list.
He is. He is.
And last one is William Byron.
Yeah, it's pretty much you've got to have those guys on. Byron is so good. Same thing with Elliott. Hamlin, I would love to see Denny finally get a championship. I really would, man.
I would too.
It's just, it's so hard to do. It's so hard. So, all right. So next for me, I've got all four Hendrick drivers making it. So I've got Bowman, Elliott, Byron, and then I'm also going to pick Kyle Busch. I think Kyle Busch is going to make RCR very relevant again. Yeah, I think Kyle Busch has a lot to prove this year. I think we're going to see Kyle Busch drive. Not to say that it's not like he has not been pushing it to the max, but I think he's got a really big point to prove this year.
I think we see a new Kyle Busch.
Yes, I do. I do too.
I think he's still going to be the same Kyle Busch. I think he's going to be more outspoken. It's going to be more of the Kyle Busch because Joe Gibbs had a tight leash on him. Richard Childress will let Kyle be Kyle.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think so too.
Kyle carries RCR this year.
I'm with you.
No offense to Austin Dillon. I'm not a big Austin Dillon fan. Kyle Busch will carry that team.
Yes, he will. I'm with you on that. All right. So who is your next four? We can get 9 through 12.
So this is where it starts to get tough because there's a lot of good guys in the NASCAR field, a lot to choose from.
Yes,
so my
there
next
is.
four, and this is going to be a shock. Ryan Preece makes the playoffs in his first year with Stewart-Haas. Then I have Tyler Reddick, Daniel Suarez, Ross Chastain.
I like that one. That is
Ryan Preece has probably got the best opportunity. And people can say what they want, but he is a massive upgrade over Cole Custer.
Yes, he is. in 100% agreement on that. To me, for Tony Stewart to push the way that he did for Priest, that says something,
So,
right?
well, not only Tony Stewart, but Kevin Harvick.
Yes, that really says something. So I'm with you. I think he's definitely going to be a contender for the championship. I should say for the playoffs. Excuse me. I don't think he's going to be a contender for the championship. For the playoffs, I do think he will be a contender for the playoffs. So yeah, that
And
wouldn't
and
surprise me at all.
here's what my thinking was. I think Cole just had that attitude of my dad works for Haas. He's one of the VPs of Haas. I can slack off and my job's fine. And then Tony Stewart brought the wheelbarrow with his nuts in it and was like,
Yeah.
"We are hiring Ryan Preece." And then Kevin Harvick stepped in and was like, "Yeah, we need him in the 41. Not only does Kevin now teammates with Ryan, but he's also his manager.
Yes.
KHI Management manages Ryan Preece. So
Hmm.
I think they made the right decision."
I'm with you on that. I think so as well. All right. So my next four, I've got Chastain, Hamlin, Harvick, and Reddick. I do think Chastain is going to be contending for the final eight, maybe potentially final four. We talked about Denny a few minutes ago. I would love to see Hamlin get another, or not get another, get a championship. I also would not be opposed to seeing Harvick get another one. I do think he's going to go out this year much better than last year. They kind of figured things out when Rodney Childers finally was like, look, I got this car is not the old car. I can't keep looking at it the same way. And they popped off those 2 wins in a row. The second half of Harvick's season was
And they were
way
fast
better.
the whole last half
Yes,
of the
they
season.
were. And I think Tyler Reddick is just an insane talent. And now he is, as good
A
as I
better
think,
opportunity.
yes, as good as I think Kyle Busch is going to do with RCR, I think Reddick is going to have a phenomenal year at 23XI. So, yeah, those are my next four. All right. So who is your final four on your playoffs?
So my final four, I got Alex Bowman, Joey Logano, AJ Allmendinger, and Christopher Bell.
So Bowman, Logano,
And can
AJ,
I
and Bell.
and I'm gonna throw this out there. There's gonna be one driver in the field that finishes outside of the points to where what is it, top 32? You got to be inside the top 32. There's going to be a car that's outside of the top 32 that gets a win this year. Corey LaJoy will win a race this year.
You think Corey LaJoy is going to win a race?
I think Corey LaJoy wins the new Atlanta race. Either one of the Atlanta races or one of the Talladega races.
I obviously his opportunity is going to be at a restrictor plate race. That was one of the cool things about the NASCAR show that they did, the chase for the race for the championship. Watching that and getting to see behind the scenes with Corey LaJoy, right? And how he's come up and how he's always been with these lower tier teams. And when he's at these races at Daytona and Talladega, and they're like, "Hey, what do you need?" He's like, "I need the okay to go. Like,
Yeah.
just give me the green light so I can actually push it." And they're just telling him, "Nope, sit tight, man. We need to just finish here. We just bring the car
And
home in one piece." So I
and
think with one more year underneath him, I think he can finally start racing a little bit more.
especially in this new car,
Mm-hmm.
because the Spire team's putting more R&D into the 7
Yes.
from what I've been hearing. And I think Corey LaJoy performs better than last year. I mean, unfortunately, he's going to be where he's at in points. I hope he proves me wrong and he knocks one of my playoff guys out. But my bold prediction is Corey LaJoy will be racing with a powerhouse team next year.
I would like to see that too. I think Corey LaJoy is one of those drivers who um, has a lot of talent and has never gotten the break with one of the top teams.
Yeah, like here's the way I look at it. He reminds me of Ross Chastain before Ross Chastain got his break.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, you're right, man. He does. There's a lot of similarities there. A lot of similarities. So, yeah, I'm with you. I would love to see him win a race, man. I
Yeah.
think that would be freaking
I
awesome.
think it would be great for the sport if Corey LaJoy just would win a
Yep.
race. I think we're gonna see Corey LaJoy do what Michael McDowell did last year.
Yeah, that would be really cool, man. That would be freaking awesome. All right. My final four, I'm going Logano. I mean, you got to pick him. He's the defending freaking champion.
How can you not leave him
Yeah,
off?
you got to pick the guy. Suarez, I already talked about him. I do think Suarez is going to get another win this year. I'm going Truex. I think Truex Jr. has a bounce back year. Um, last year was tough for him. He was one of the older drivers who did not like the next gen car, but I think he's going to have a much better year. And then last, I've got Bubba Wallace. I think Bubba Wallace is going to be a multi-race winner this season. I really do.
And I had him penciled in, took him out, and I put AJ Allmendinger in a spot.
You see, that's, to me,
I can't bet against AJ Allmendinger, not at these freaking road courses.
That's the thing, man. If it was like it was years ago where it was just Watkins Glen and Sonoma, right? You got Sears Point and Watkins Glen. Those are the two road courses on the schedule. Then I would have no problem leaving Allmendinger off. But there's 6 road courses that we got this season?
You
6
can't
or
leave
7?
him off now.
Yeah, that's 6 races where he is almost guaranteed a podium finish, right? Like the dude, whatever you feel about him on the oval stuff, and dude, he did phenomenal last year in the Xfinity Series, right? Like, I mean, he was a legit championship contender.
He was my championship pick, I think.
Yeah, on the road stuff, I don't think there is a better driver on the road. And as good as he did in the Xfinity last year on road course races, this car, even though this is, it's not like this is some GT3 car out there. It is definitely an improved road racing car. I think he's going to be much better in this car on the road courses.
If you recall, who did Ross Chastain move at Coda to win?
Yeah.
AJ Allmendinger.
Yep. So, yeah, it's
back.
Tough.
I think Dinger's back and he's rejuvenated.
I think so too, man. He was another driver that when he first came up, it was kind of a
Godspeed-esque.
Yeah, it was kind of rushed, you know what I mean? And he came up and he wasn't with, it wasn't like he didn't come up with Hendrick, right? Like
I think he had his one opportunity with Penske and it didn't go too well.
No, it didn't. But also, we got to remember Penske has had some up and down years. Penske hasn't always been a powerhouse. They've had some bad years. You know what I mean? There were some bad years there.
Dark times over there.
Yeah,
when they were with Dodge.
Yeah.
Outside of Brad Keselowski's championship in 2012.
Yep. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing him, man, this season. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I got to admit, man, I'm really excited about the Cup season this year. Last year I was excited because we had the different car and we had they right before the season started, well, not right before, but like a month and a half before the season, it was, hey, we're going to go 670 horsepower, 4-inch spoiler. It was like finally something better than this pack racing crap at all the mile and a halves. And, it was an exciting year. It really was. And I think this year it's going to be even better now that these teams have had a full year to really develop these cars. So, yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, man. And I'm really looking forward to it. So to recap really quick, Keith's 16 drivers for our ridiculously too early to make any predictions playoff picks are Kyle Larson, Kevin Harvick, Ryan Blaney, Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, Chase Briscoe, Chase Elliott, William Byron, Ryan Preece, Daniel Suarez, Tyler Reddick, Ross Chastain, Alex Bowman, Joey Logano, AJ Allmendinger, and Christopher Bell.
Kevin Harvick wins championship and rides off in the sunset like Tom Brady.
There you go. I did not see that pick coming. And I've got Kyle Larson, AJ Allmendinger, Ryan Blaney, Christopher Bell, Alex Bowman, Chase Elliott, William Byron, Kyle Busch, Ross Chastain, Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick, Tyler Reddick, Joey Logano, Daniel Suarez, Martin Truex Jr., and Bubba Wallace. So those are our playoff picks, which brings us to our NASCAR Pick'em. So, like I said, each week we will pick a driver. Once we pick that driver, we can no longer pick them during the regular season. So, Keith, who is your first pick of the season for Daytona?
Ooh, man, you had to go there, didn't you?
Yep.
I think Ryan Blaney wins the Daytona 500.
Ryan Blaney. Dude.
He's came up so close every last 3 Daytona 500s.
Oh yeah, man. He's been when it comes
He's
to restrictor plate racing, he is one of the best there is at it.
Yeah, and one of the most underappreciated
Yes.
restrictor plate racers.
He really is. You know, for somebody who does have a pretty big spotlight on him, right? You know, he came up, you know, if you look at that group of drivers and they're all, I mean, it's not like they're old, but they're not the young kids that they used to be, right? You know, he came up with that group of, you know, Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, Bubba Wallace, right? Like those guys have raced against each other for years.
And he was overshadowed by every one of them.
And he has been, yes, absolutely. And I think he is, you know, a phenomenal, and a phenomenal overall driver, let alone at the restrictor plate. So yeah, that was actually going to be my pick, man, but I'm not going to, I'll save him for the next Daytona race or Talladega. I'm going to actually, I am going to go with Bubba Wallace.
I like it. And that's another
he's another really good restrictor plate racer.
And nobody wants to admit it, but Bubba Wallace is actually a really good super speedway racer.
He is. He's a really good racer, right? Like his super speedway skills, I do think outshine his speedway skills, but he's a really good racer. He really is, man. I was happy to see him get that win last year at what track was that? It was a mile and a half.
Kansas?
Was that Kansas? Was it Kansas? It was Kansas or Vegas or something, one of them mile and a halves that they go to. But yeah, I was happy to see him get that win because, you know, the Talladega win that he got, there was so many people who were like, well, you know, that one was shortened and it didn't really, and it's like, shut up, dude. It's a win's a win. It don't matter, right? Go ask them drivers who, you know, go ask Mike Skinner if he would take a rain shortened win. I mean, like, the man would say yes.
Just
so
ask any racer if they take a rain
exactly.
win.
Exactly. So
think Chris Buescher was mad that he won a fogged out race? No,
absolutely
no.
not.
A win is a win.
That's right. When you look back on it, all it's going to show is that you were the one in victory lane. It's not going to say why or how.
It ain't like they replaced it in the history book. If you go back to that season, his name's there.
There's no asterisk next to it. So, all right. So you've got Ryan Blaney. I've got Bubba Wallace. So those guys will be off the board for the rest of the regular season. So that is going to do it for our first episode back here in 2023. So obviously we had a long break. It's good to be back. We will be back every Thursday. So this will be the new recording time. Now the show will be posted either Thursday night or potentially Friday morning. It's all going to kind of depend on what happens, you know, because I don't have a producer I can just hand this off to. I got to do it myself. So for the most part, it'll be Thursday night, Friday morning, but we'll have it up before the weekend. So that way we can get our picks and everything out there before the Cup race. So that's going to do it. Everybody, thank you very much for joining us. We look forward to another awesome year of racing. Keith, my man, good to finally hear your voice, man. It's been too long. Glad to get you on here and talk some racing, man. I know.
So excited leaving work this morning. I'm like, damn,
podcast.
What do I got? I was like, podcast. I've been watching all kinds of different podcasts, and man, I'm proud of where this one has came.
Me too.
I think it's one of the more professional motorsports podcasts out there. I mean, there's some that's just off the walls, and it's like, what in the hell are we doing?
Yeah, there there are a few out there that are yeah.
Thanks to COVID, everybody's a podcaster now.
Exactly. That that has become like the most innocuous phrase out there, the hey, will you be on my podcast? Like everybody's
Yeah.
got a podcast now. There's
5
like,
years ago, you'd be like, what?
yeah, they'd be like, dude, that's not even a thing. And now it's like
What?
everybody's got one. And it's so funny too, because you hear all the time these people, and these are like famous people, right? Professional athletes, movie stars, stuff like that. They start these podcasts, and then you look and it's like, you did 12 episodes and then stopped. Like, what happened? They're like, what? I got to do this every week. This sucks, man. It's a lot.
That's
So
funny.
yeah, it's
And
awesome.
and the good thing is, hopefully in a couple of weeks when I get my camera set up, you guys can see my ugly mug, my big bushy beard, and
There you go.
it's fun.
Yeah, it doesn't stop me from showing mine. So yeah, we'll have it all set up. Yeah, that's the
Shave it
thing.
off if Kevin Harvick wins the championship.
There you
we
go. There you go.
And then
So
I'll cry after
yeah,
because he's gonna be gone.
we'll be having I'll be getting more of the video content on the YouTube channel here as well, with the shorts and also clips and stuff like that, so that way you guys can see everything. And when Keith gets set up, I'm hoping this year we'll get to do some what we'll be calling race companion podcasts, where we'll actually, during a race, we'll actually record a pod while me and
A
Keith
live reaction
watch a
show. That'd be
race.
cool.
Yeah, something like that. So we're gonna do some stuff like that. So yeah, a lot of cool stuff this year. Glad to finally get things lined out and kicked off. So we'll be back next week to do it all over again. Keith, my man, have a good weekend. Enjoy the 500.
Oh, absolutely. Have a good weekend yourself, and then
I
thank you
will.
to everybody that listens.
Yep. Yeah,
I
yeah.
love
Huge thanks.
doing this every Thursday morning.
Yep. No, it's been awesome, man. And the people who have been asking, on my live streams and stuff like that, on my other YouTube channel, people have been like, dude, when's the pod coming back? The fact that people have actually been wanting it back is awesome. So yeah, big thanks to all you guys out there who follow and subscribe to the show. Please keep doing so. Share it, get it out there. And yeah, me and Keith will be back here next week to do it all over again. So Keith, my man, have a good weekend. Everyone out there, have a good weekend. And we will talk to you guys next week. And until then, take care.